And welcome to today's walk down memory lane, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my own experiences in East Germany in the 1980s. My mind went back today. I mean, today, 3rd of October. I'm now in Germany. It was pretty dead around here. I mean, I'm sort of in a light industrial area, so it's not as though it's in the centre of town or anything like that. Indeed, where I am right now, I've got fields on one side, and they've got industrial area on the other. In fact, I've really got fields on two sides. So any celebrations or whatever that might have gone on, but really this was a really quiet day. So I sat in here nearly all day, and I was working normally, and because what I was doing is largely working with the United Kingdom, so it didn't make any difference. I didn't get the day off, but lots of people got the day off. And anyway, so my mind went back to watching Newsnight on I think it was the 3rd of October, 1990, so 33 years ago. And there was this, like, it was filmed at the Brandenburg Gate, and in the background you could see this party going on, and there was, I think it was Jon Snow, I can't quite remember, and there was somebody there who from East Germany who said that the dead against what was then called the annexation by some people. And Jon Snow said, you know what, this is just like a Monty Python. We're trying to have a serious discussion here and got this party going on all around us. And anyway, for me, I feel a certain, I don't know if attachment is the right word, but all these years later, now a third of a century later, and when I'm in Berlin, the places I'm hanging out in most still largely in the east. Is this because East Berlin got all the good bits, or is it something else? Or is it going back, as many people do, to their much younger days, and then thinking about how good things were then? Obviously in the early 80s, the East Germany didn't have a particularly good reputation as a holiday destination, or indeed a place that you'd want to actually go there too often. Incidentally, I mean, as it's a live thing, and I might just stop wandering off and then not decide I've gone on too long and decide to put an end to it, and then so we'll continue some other time. I might do that. Or alternatively, I might you can ask questions on other subjects. I might just stop what I'm talking about. So just see what happens. I haven't prepared this. I've got no notes or anything. So as is usually the case, sometimes I do have write one or two things down. But anyway, so my first visit in 1982, I went to Poland, and I'll go through the story of that. I don't have to do something on Poland. But anyway, August 82, I went to Poland for the first time. And at the border, so there was this sort of I got on a train in Cologne, which was went to Warsaw. And so anyway, I got on the train. I was only got in one carriage, and I was the only person on it. And so anyway, people started getting on in various stations. I mean, I remember this little girl who sat in front of me. Her name was Malgosh, and she was 10 years old. And so now she'll be 53. Anyway, so I got on. I got on this train. Now, somewhere, I think in Hanover, there was when it stopped there. There was a U.S. military got on it, and they were told they had to go into one particular carriage. There was an announcement was made in English, and then the train just continued on its merry way. Now, somewhere, I presume, beyond Braunschweig. Now, if you look at Braunschweig today, it's sort of in the middle of Germany, but then it wasn't so far from the border. And somewhere near Braunschweig, there was a German, West German, sorry, passport control. So when you did the passport. Anyway, so then you got to Helmstedt, and Helmstedt station, the train stopped, And then when it went off a bit, it started going very, very slowly. I've got videos. I went back to Helmstedt. I've got videos on the border, which I did, what about, oh, that's a long time ago, it's about 17 years ago. And I went searching for the place where this actually happened, because you came to the border, right? So you got these wire fences. It was barbed wire at the end, and then so it depends. Sometimes it had walls like it got in Berlin, or as I've shown other videos. Sometimes it was barbed wire. Sometimes it was something else. It might even be a very low wire. In fact, then the wall was further back from it. But then the train line actually ran beside the border for some time. So you're still in West Germany, but you could see out and you could see into East Germany. I can remember once on another occasion I saw some East German soldier sort of collecting stuff near the border. I don't know what he was doing, but that was visible. Anyway, so you got to the border and there was this big gate with the emblem of East Germany on it. And anyway, so actually saw, I must have stuck my head out the window, and the train was stopped. Anyway, so they opened this gate up, and the train just sort of went through, and it came into Helmstedt station, and it just stopped there. And I don't know if they changed drivers or something there, or what, but there obviously no East Germans could get onto the train, but so presumably somehow they had some kind of security around it to stop any escapees getting on. And then there was the East German customs got on them. Now the role of the East German customs was to sell you transit visas. So what happened was that there was a transit visa. They took your passport off you, wrote out this little slip of paper. I actually found one of these little slips of paper when I was cleaning my place up 7 years ago. And anyway, so I'll have to see if I can get my hands on it. They could have been changing, yeah, it could have been changing locomotives. And so you got this transit visa was given you, this stamp that stamped your passport, and you're on your merry way. That was it, really. There was no harassment, no problems, no nothing. Now the visa here was free because they introduced around 1970 introduced a 5 Deutschmark visa fee, but which I think was in contravention. I might be wrong on this one, but I think was in contravention of some agreement. But anyway, the West German government just paid the cash, and so you just continued. Then you just continued on. And anyway, so the thing was this, it was August, and so the train left, I think it was 13:15, it left Cologne, and it'll probably be the same time today, because the train timetables don't change very often. I presume it's the same time today. Sorry, well, they've got faster trains than now, they didn't have then. And by the time we got to Berlin, what I can recall, I didn't even notice it going across the border there. It was dark. It was about 9 something. It was the end of August when I got into Berlin. I took a photograph outside. Didn't come out very well. In those days, you had to be more careful. It wasn't like today, where you could sort of take stacks and stacks of photographs, because you're not paying for it effectively. But then you have to think about how much film you've got on you, and what have you. And so then anyway, so it got to the border, the next border, and now suddenly in Berlin it was no longer all fun and games, because you can sort of follow it, and I sort of walked beside the S-Bahn when I was in Berlin recently, and just reminding myself what it looked like then, because then at that moment I couldn't actually see it, but when you got to where the wall was, it was all suddenly brightly lit up. And so you had the bright lights of the city. You could see the Kurfürsten Dam and these places around Berlin Zoo, but that was for the nightlife of West Berlin, which it was noted for. But then when you crossed into the board over the border was lit up completely, and so anybody was thinking that they might want to break into East Germany, they would have found that a bit more difficult. So anyway, so then it came into the station, which I believe this is the problem I've got. I can recall it was in Ostbahnhof, where it's slightly different because now they've changed things around a bit. But in Ostbahnhof, what I can recall very clearly was that the train stood there, and there was a train from the Soviet Union on the same platform as we were on, but there were soldiers along every 20 meters or so, and they held weapons in their hands. So it's as though they were guarding, guarding prisoners. So the prison, it was like that. But this was a normal passenger train. Anyway, so then so it took off into the darkness of East Germany. So you've got this lit up border. Then suddenly, when you go a bit further, it's quite dark. I mean, it's not as dark as Ukraine was when I went there last year, because fortunately I filmed that as well. So you've got the bright lights on the Polish side of the border, and you cross into Ukraine. It was completely dark because of the enemy there launching, trying to knock out the electrical supply. But anyway, East Germany, communist country, didn't have a lot of wealth. And anyway, so then you got the next in Berlin. I can't remember which station it was at, and maybe it was Ostbahnhof. It wasn't Friedrichstrasse, but the next lot of customs gets on. This time you got to pay 5 marks. You got to pay it yourself because the West German government wasn't paying for that. And your passport got stamped again, so it's stamp number 2. And then it went all the way to Frankfurt on Oder, and then it got another stamp again. And so you got three stamps, and then it hung around in Poland. It hung around in Poland for a very long time. I was everybody had to get off the train except for me. And indeed, the customs officer was quite nice. He said, "Oh, go ahead, don't worry, go to sleep," he said on the Polish side. Anyway, I'll deal with the Polish side in a different time, because I'm talking about Germany, not Poland. And anyway, so the next time I was there, no, it wasn't next time. It was a couple of times later. I had the following experience. I got on the train in Poznan, and it was at 2 o'clock in the morning, having left Gdynia. I think it was around 9 o'clock. And then at 2 in the morning, so we left Poznan. I think the train was quite late or something, or maybe it was. But no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was meant to be there at 2, and it left at 5. That was it. That was normal in those days. And then so it gets into Berlin, and it's sort of early morning. Anyway, there I was actually detained, and the reason for being I was with somebody. I'd met somebody on the platform or on the train, and he was from Yemen. And so actually with former British colony, and in fact the times of colonialism had only been 15. It had been British pulled out of Aden in 1968. So this was 67, sorry, November 67. So this is only 15 years later. So it was really in quite and he spoke English quite well, although I think I communicated with, I can't remember, I think I communicated with him in Polish, but whatever. Anyway, I can't quite remember now. And then anyway, so obviously they have to detain a certain amount of people every day, otherwise not doing the job properly. So anyway, so we got detained, and but it didn't get taken off the train. And anyway, so I got charged of being a terrorist, and I started laughing. I thought it was really funny. I don't know what I thought was really funny about it, but this wasn't a nervous laugh. This was a genuine laugh. And I think that they must have really seen the difference between the two. And anyway, he just kicked me out. Get out of here. And so then I went back into my compartment, and that was the end of that one. But this gentleman I was with, who was probably a few years older than I was, I mean, he'd lived in a communist country, so he probably had every reason to be frightened, and he understood what might happen. Whereas for me, it was all a bit of an adventure, and nothing else. Now, So I'd had this bit of this fascination for East Germany for some time. Now, on the next visit, which happened, I took a different route back, and so there was a train from Gdynia to Berlin-Lichtenberg, which was direct. Otherwise, I had to change in Poznan. But if I go straight there, that was far easier for me. So I went to Berlin-Lichtenberg, and then you got the S-Bahn. So you were mixing with the plebs in East Germany, and then you went over the border at Friedrichstraße. So anyway, so I took the train. It was a night train again. I mean, I didn't sleep as usual because it's I don't know why. Maybe I would sleep today, but anyway, it didn't sleep very well. I hardly slept at all. So we got there to Berlin-Lichtenberg, and somehow I met some woman en route. I seem to recall. I can recall very clearly being with Angermunda and sort of waving to people in other carriages. And I remember this girl was in the train with me, and I said something, it was a poor country, East Germany. She said, no, it's not. It's really good for doing shopping. Of course, the thing was this, to me, having said that, Poland seemed more sort of normal, and then I was comparing East Germany to Britain or West Germany or something, and that's what it seemed poor. Whereas in Poland, it was obviously much poorer, because the Soviet Union largely decided to punish Poland for the strikes and everything. So it was sort of just helping yourself to all the economic potential of that country, so that things became very difficult to obtain in Poland. At least that was the opinion given at the time. I think to a large extent that was true, to be quite honest. Anyway, so you got to there to Lichtenberg. Anyway, so I, being a bit more adventurous, said, I think I'll just get off. I won't get the S-Bahn all the way. I'll get off and have a look around East Berlin, which I did. I can remember this lady who gave me a bus ticket, and I tried to pay her, and she no, she wouldn't take any money off me, even though I was trying to give her Western money, which probably obviously now Eastern money. She wouldn't take it. Now anyway, I had a bit of a walk around, but one thing I did do was went down to the Unter den Linden, and that's the other side of the road. If you like, if you've got a straight road and you've got the Brandenburg Gate, which is more or less the border, and you got the Unter den Linden. So I went in the Unter den Linden to the furthest point I could, and you could see over into the west. Through the Brandenburg Gate, because the wall was, to start off with, was lower, and you could see there were two lines of barbed wire fences, but they're utterly clear. Now, what I found particularly strange, though, in this case, having said earlier about being a poor country, I was walking down Unter den Linden, which of course was the show piece road of East Germany. I remember very clearly a couple of things. There was a smell of coffee from a cafe, which in Poland was totally, you couldn't get coffee then in Poland. And the second thing was there was a dress in a shop window. Now that might seem a really odd thing to remember, but because of what was happening in Poland, what you'd get in Poland would be catalogues. You'd have catalogues in shops. You could see what people have got, but normally from West Germany, it could be from other countries, from Austria or something, and that was it. But the shops were not producing things which people actually want, and this is the problem with the communist system. It doesn't work because it doesn't react to people's needs and requirements. Anyway, that apart, so these were some of the observations, and from there after a while, once I'd done my tourist bit, I went to the Friedrichstraße station on foot, and then I did now this Friedrichstraße. You can see this today. I went there 2 months ago or 3 months ago when I was in Berlin. I was in Berlin June and July, and a lot of it looks the same on the outside. What it was at the railway station, you got off the train if you'd come through. I hadn't the first time I did it, but in future times I actually did do this. So the station was sort of divided in two. And today, even when I was there a couple of months ago, I looked at the way it was. You can still see the shooting galleries at the in the station. They are still visible today. where the guards stood. And these guards, though, who couldn't get down to go into the east, to go into the west. So they were there to shoot people trying to escape, but they couldn't actually escape themselves. It was too high, unless they got a rope or something, or whatever. But anyway, so then you got off the train, and then you walked down, you walked under the bridge, and you came out the other way. And so anyway, now today I actually stood there, and recently, and I tried to recall what was where. Today, where the East German control point one is a body shop, and the body shop, that's the British chain. So you walked into this other, and first of all, the first control point was quite, it was relatively lax. It was sort of a brief look at the passport or something like that. Then you had to go into the customs. Now, on a couple of occasions, had problems with the customs. Now, once, and I was detained because they found on me Polish money. And the thing was, the Polish guards wouldn't take the money off me. And they were supposed to give me a receipt. Well, they didn't do that. It wasn't a lot, but anyway, I was detained there for some time. Anyway, they let me go. They even let me take the money out with me as well. That was nice of them. And then you went through the main passport control. And what happened there was a corridor. It wasn't a very long one. It was about what? I would say it's about maybe 3 meters long, something like that, or even if that 2.5 meters long. But it was very, very narrow. Now I was carrying a backpack, and I couldn't turn. So I mean, if anybody was a bit overweight, then they wouldn't have. It was really, really narrow. And there they put your passport through several like checking things, Western materials as well they were using for the checks to see that I can recall that the manufacturers, unfortunately I can't remember the names of them now, but they put through lights and things like that, and then if decided your passport was genuine, they give it to you back, they pressed a button, and then there was a door. Now this door opened, it was most doors only open one way anyway. So you push the door open, and then it slammed shut behind you. And then you were in the west, if you like. Although this was still in the east. How is that possible? From there you could get the underground. So there were 2 lines that went under West Berlin, underground lines that went through East Berlin, because there was this like salient, if you like, this bit of East Berlin stuck into West Berlin in Mitte today, center, so you could get on the or you could get on the S-Bahn, and the S-Bahn was the one you took if you wanted to go to the zoo. The zoo is also not just the zoo where the animals are, but it's also the railway station to go west. So you got on there, and then you went on your way. And so anyway, I did that several times in the 80s. I was only actually detained twice, so I can't complain too much. Indeed, actually, in October of 82, I was kicked out of Poland, but that was I was told to leave after being detained there. But anyway, that's we'll do that on a different day. I think the most interesting, actually, with all this, having said all this, was what actually happened in 1990. And now, having had all of these experiences under socialism, in '89 the wall came down, 9th of November 1989, and I went next time. I was April of 1990, so I took a Pan Am, I think it was. I flew to Frankfurt, and then from Frankfurt to Berlin. I think that was the route, and then I was going to get the train. Anyway, it was dreadfully late, the flight, so I was going to miss my train, as it turned out. And anyway, so then it was totally, I thought, oh, no way we're getting this train now. It was totally different. It was a completely different situation, because suddenly all these places that once where they'd held you up doing this control, that control, and I don't know what else, it was all open. You just walked through, okay, there was a cursory glance at your passport, but that was it. And the train, we did miss the train. I was actually on the platform, but my former partner, she was at the bottom of the stairs, so we didn't make it for that reason. But anyway, okay, we took a different route, and we got to Gdynia the following day. And anyway, so good. So that was quite curious. But on the way back, we had a day in Berlin, which, from my mind, was really it was a very curious day, because the wall had come down, but you had to go through border checkpoints. You couldn't go through it. Only if you had a German passport could you go through the Brandenburg Gate, which by this time had been opened up. And so there were places, and there was still a cursory glance at your passport. But anyways, we bought some bits of the wall, but we also we spent some time in East Berlin. And now what was it was this real carnival atmosphere. Now this is several months after the fall of the wall, 5 months later. And so you did have the East German border guards there, but they were on the other side of the wall. They were sort of hanging around with everybody else, and there was the West German police and smiling for photos and all the rest of it. But it was a superb atmosphere. And that was it, really. So my next visit was in 92, and then I went by car. I drove to Moscow in October of 92. But what was really there was on the motorway, which I didn't have only got a driving license about 91 in September 91. And you can still see the sign at the border. It's still there. In fact, I've got a video of it. And we're on the road between on the A2 going to Berlin, and you can still see some of the towers are still there as well. I mean, it's quite clear. I mean, some of the places, actually, I have got a couple of videos on these showing how the former East German installations have been used for civilian use now. And I remember going past this sign, and then suddenly there was a traffic jam, and I had to slam on the brakes, and then having the music on the cassette player. Remember them? Gary Glitter on. I mean, he was still a hero in those days. And anyway, so but driving through was really. It was so odd that you could just bang, and nobody bothered you at all when you got to the border. And on my way back from Moscow, I had spent some time looking for where the border was, and I met a couple of people, and they were from East Germany, and they took me around in their Trabant, and it was really good. Okay, right, so there's some mine. So I'll have a look at some of the comments. Now, Colin says, The Lives of Others is a fantastic film, which I haven't even heard of, never mind anything else. And yeah, so they're still doing something in Frankfurt on Oder. I suppose that's stamping passports now, seeing as the Polish government has been involved in a major corruption thing where they have been selling off visas. Some people in government, I think this is what they think is the privileges of their rank, and so they're doing it. These to a large extent former ex-communists who trying to abuse the European Union. But anyway, that apart. Okay, hello Zoltan in Dubrovnik. Hey, that must be a nice place. You know, I was thinking of Dubrovnik. That would be a great place for me to live. And my theory of this was that the weather would be, because I really don't want to live in Gdansk, but the weather's not so good. But I thought in Dubrovnik, it looks a bit like Gdansk, and probably feels a bit like it, only that you've got the weather's good all the year round. That was my thinking at the time. So Elmer's got some interesting stories here. Oh, right. So anyway, first time catching a lie. The day I moved to Germany was the day the Berlin Wall fell. Landed in Frankfurt in total chaos. 9th of November, 1989. What a great day to land there, but you landed in the wrong place. You should have gone to Berlin. I mean, there, I don't suppose. Well, anyway, let's see the rest of the story before I make any comments. So Elmer says, I was able to live in Germany for 7.5 years, 3 in Rockenhausen and 4 in Grafenhausen. Afraid I don't know either of those two places. In December 89, I went to Prague and bought a fabulous China set for $35. Went back in January 90 and the same set was 120. Yep, that's what happened. Yep. And how incredible. Would love to experience something of that period in the DDR and the Eastern Bloc, such an incredibly unique period in history. Yeah, actually, I do think of this now because thing is, with hindsight, it's different. And there's also East Germany was a very bad experience for people who actually lived there. The security apparatus has never been equaled, as far as I'm aware, because we don't really know what the security apparatus is in North Korea. But if the amount of people who were spying for the regime, incredible numbers. Well, I went to the Stasi Museum. Sorry, I didn't go in it, and I felt a bit pushed for time. I was only there for 2.5 weeks or whatever it was. But so I haven't been in the Stasi Museum. I might go when the weather's bad. But I'd be really curious to get into some of the Stasi records, to get into an archive, to look, just to pick one small town and see who was spying on who, and for what. I would find that really interesting. Now, the problem in Germany now, what they do, in fact, this has gone, not just now, but this has been about 40-50 years, they actually black the names out on the original documents. When I did the video on Salon Kitty, for example, there was somebody's name. I have the person's name, but I was wondering if under German law I could say it. So when I was I did the one in the street, and I was talking about Salon Kitty, and I didn't say her name. But in the I have done a video which hasn't been published yet. It'll be published in a couple of months' time. But I do actually say the person's name in this video. Sometimes I might just say the first name, or something like that, because this is, if the person's still alive, then there is there's the risk. Of course, this lady, if she is still alive, I mean, she was in her 30s then, so I mean, she's going to be 110 or something, so I presume she may not be alive. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so Colin says can't beat a bit of Rammstein. Dubrovnik's lovely. Okay, so Elmer's went to Berlin January 1990 and got many pieces of the wall. Yeah, I lost my bits of the wall. I haven't got. So Elmer was living in Sembach. Sembach and Rhein-Main. I don't know what that is. Sorry, not Sembach am Rhein. I was able to do a lot of traveling in Europe while living in Germany. Fascinating first-hand accounts. I agree with the comments, re hindsight and security apparatus. Yeah. This is what it is. And the thing is with East Germany, I don't feel I can look back on it in a slightly different way to look back on communist Poland, because what really gets me about communist Poland is that these characters, many of those who were part of the security apparatus then, are now within the current government, for example, and that is something which really gets me. Now, I haven't actually come across any former communist criminals in East Germany in the West. I'm sure there are some, I just haven't come across them. But if we take the case of Poland, we've got many of them, and it's this the government's in power now. Means even the state where you had the former president Bronisław Komorowski, he was arrested and he was sent to prison by a judge who later joined who was a parliamentarian for the current ruling party. And so you've got people like this judge calling Komorowski a communist or a lefty, something like the word. It is a total absurd, this double think, which is happening, and that is something I can really feel this. And when I did a couple of videos on solidarity in this, which I published in when was it, December 2021 for the 40th anniversary, and of martial law. And that I was really furious afterwards. I thought, these people, what happened to these criminals who got away with it, and they're in power now. And you could look at the victims of communism, who are now the ones in many cases being persecuted by the actual these ex-communists turned whatever they are today, but they did win the election fairly and freely. So anyway, close to Kaiserslautern and then Frankfurt. Okay, Kaiserslautern, that's not so far from where I am now, actually. Kaiserslautern's what, about 130 kilometers or so from where I am here in Heilbronn. Okay, Concept, The Lives of Others, about a Stasi agent who turns. Very good film. Okay, right, there you go. There's this fabulous spy museum in DC with Cold War items. Okay, very good. I went to, and I should have done a video on it, but I didn't. I went to I'm sorry, I did do it. I stood outside and said how good it was. There's a spy museum in former East Berlin. And so I went there, and it was a really good 3 or 4 hours entertainment. And yeah, it's brilliant. And what's the other one? There's another one, DDR Museum. It's sort of in East Berlin, and it's sort of a hands-on museum. And then it's got these questions, for example, it's in a way it's a bit like out of Viz, which is British people will know what it is. It's like a comic, a amusing comic, which I actually write for. But so there's questions on it about what you're in charge of this factory, what you're going to do, and then if you take the logical thing, which is the business sensible answer, then you get fired, and if you do something stupid, then which what the party wants, and then you keep your job. But it's very good. It shows how totally absurd the system was. I think that even people, when I've spoken to people who were had responsible jobs, I had a friend. He was a banker, and he was only a couple of years older than I am as well. And he was from East Berlin, and he went to London in the summer of '89. And he said that now he'd been involved in foreign trade. He said to me, he showed me that what they got involved in this business with buying West German televisions. And he went to his boss and he said, "This is totally ridiculous. It doesn't make any economic sense whatsoever." And he said, and his boss said, "It doesn't have to make economic sense. You just do it." And so he just did it. And he was part of the West German delegation, East German delegation, which was in London in '89. And I said, "Well, you could have just escaped. Why didn't you do that?" And he said, "Yeah, but it was clear that things were going to come to an end anyway." And he said about 50 people who went, only one of them actually did escape. And in many cases, of course, people had their families and things. And that was what actually made them. And I suspect is what they would only send married people abroad anyway. So they had some type of hold on them. Anyway, so Doc says that Dubrovnik's lovely, and if I decide to visit, bet me people like me would love to meet you in person. Oh, thank you very much. That's very nice to read. Yeah. Anyway, oh, please go back to the Spy Museum and do a video for us. Right, yes, I stood outside it actually. Now, my plan is to go back to Berlin at the beginning of March. But something's now turned up, and I might have to go to Birmingham in the following week. So I won't be able to. I mean, and if I did that, then I'd have to fly. No, sorry, I wouldn't fly to. I'd drive there from here. So that's the end of that one. But now I know where I can park my motorhome in Berlin, which is a relatively good place to park and close to the center and free of charge. I shall be doing that again in the future, and Yeah, but I'll probably do that. I go to, I'm so there's places I have to be at certain times, and so you know I have to be in Stuttgart in January. I have to be in Dusseldorf in September. I have to be in Bad Kissingen in June. And so when I'm in Bad Kissingen, I come back to Poland, spend the summer in Poland. Some quite regular things I do is I don't vary them that much. And so then go to Berlin. And I mean, this year I had this really good tour back. So I was in Bad Kissingen, and then from Bad Kissingen I went to the border, and I went to a place called Sul. I spent 3 days in Sul, then I was in Halle. Went to the Heydrich stuff, which most of which you haven't seen, and then from Halle I went to where did I go from there? I went somewhere. Oh yes, I went to see where the Einsatzgruppen were. That was a really nice place. I visited there en route, and then from there I went up to Berlin quite slowly, and then Berlin I visited Goebbels's former place, and then Goering's hangout. I went there, and that was in July, and then in August I was back at a place. I was in Brandenburg, and I was in Ravensbrück, and yeah, very good. Anyway, so very interesting. So thanks very much for watching. That was my recollections of years gone by in East Germany, and oh sorry, Deutschland 83, 86 and 89, a brilliant TV miniseries to do with the Stasi, a good watch. Oh, that sounds all right. I'll have a look at that. Elmer says he's behind on the videos. Yeah, so no, the thing is, actually, I'm more behind on the videos. I have got stacks of stuff here. I have got material. I mean, the notes which I've done. All right, so sorry, this is not notes. This is like the outline. Is about 600 or 700 pages for videos. Really, I keep thinking to myself, I've got to sit down. So last week, I dictated about 6 videos, something like that. I keep thinking, oh, I've got to get up in the morning and do it early because once the birds start singing, it means too much racket in the background and cars going past. I think, well, I'll do it. I'll do my dictations on a Sunday, and if I go to London. Then there's too much. I can't really do it there because of the amount of noise in the street, and there's also I was finding excuses not to do it when I was in Wrocław and in Gdansk when I was there in the summer. It was just too much noise. But I mean, here on a Sunday morning, it's not too bad outside, and yeah, I'm gonna look at the Deutschland. But I've got all these things. I keep getting more and more ideas, and this is part of the problem. Is I'm like the fat person at the buffet, and I take stacks of stuff, and the problem is then putting it together. Not only that, I'm really keen to make sure that I get facts right, and if there's something I'm not quite sure of it, sometimes instead of not quite sure of it, then maybe you can either ignore it. Or it's sometimes it's checking things, and I spend ages trying to check things to try and check the sources are correct, and that all takes a while. I don't know what people do when they write books, or maybe they just don't check them. I've no idea, but if you try to check something, you're trying to find out when somebody was born or something like that, and you start checking it, it takes like 3 hours, and you got to start questioning it. Well, is this really relevant to the story that I'm doing? And that's the problem. Of course, I mean, if somebody actually somebody says, that's wrong, and the trouble is that most times when people say something's wrong, and you waste a lot of time checking it, and then turns out that they're wrong. That's usually the case. So anyway, okay, thanks very much for being here. Thanks Elmer and Doc and Colin and Tim and everyone else, and for being here, and Annie, sorry, and anyway, I might have forgotten, and so I'll do another video. I'll see if I can do another video tomorrow. I might have at the same time. I might have a meeting. Actually, I think I've got a meeting at I think I've got a 6 o'clock meeting. which usually goes on until about 9. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And I don't know my thing as yet. So all the best. Thank you, and bye for now. Thank you.